Our next speaker, Jack Dangermond, is the founder and CEO of ESRI. He's really the granddaddy of the whole geospatial movement. And he's going to talk to us about location and what it enables in the world of the future. Thank you very much. Please give Jack a warm welcome.
Jeremy Bartlett. Hello. My friend Jeremy Bartlett. He and I are going to do this together. Thanks, Tim. One of the interesting challenges, I think, today is geospatially enabling information. And that's exactly what we want to talk about, is how can we actually geospatially enable Gov 2.0? And that's really the whole notion. You got it? Yeah. We're good.
Okay.
Today, geospatial data is actually pervasive in the government at all different levels. National government, local government, state governments, not just in the US, but all around the world. And it's used in so many different applications where information is integrated, brought together, or overlaid, or visualized and analyzed. And I'll just say this has improved planning, it's improved management of government, it's improved a lot of decision making about where to locate things, it's tracking assets, all those sorts of things. And actually, if you look across government, I would assert that it's a kind of new information infrastructure. One of the problems is it's not necessarily all brought together as one map. Next. Data sharing has actually been a key to the success of GIS. I make one kind of map and I share it with somebody else. They can bring that map in and integrate it and use it in their own domain. So the federal government particularly has led the way in terms of data sharing. Many agencies actually consider data sharing part of their mission, like the census. They share the census data, or they share the digital map that the census data is related to. Or USGS will share their topographic digital map, and other people use it as a base map to put their data on top of. Or the Soil Conservation Service, part of USDA, I guess that's the wrong name now, but anyway, they share their soil map, and farmers can use it in their own little devices of various ways. And in the last few years, FTP sites, or so-called clearinghouses where these data can be gotten from, has sort of centralized how I discover and how I download and get that information. That's really helped a lot in terms of the sharing movement. But I would say that it's not really facilitated a kind of a one map or a national map or a national framework where all geospatial data can be brought together. I think government should begin to think about creating geo-services in a massive way, moving from simply file sharing to the notion of setting up services that can be brought together. RESTful services, services that are easily discovered, services that in some cases might be niche little sciences, pieces of science, where the authoritative source information can be brought up, mashed up, brought together through easy-to-use clients and free, open APIs that people can bring this information together with. Because in a way, the FTP download data, while interesting for some people who actually know what to do with it, is a little bit of a barrier for massive use and integration. So this diagram basically simply suggests putting the content up as services and letting the private sector, the public sector to public sector, mash up, integrate, connect information, and I believe this would create just massive new applications and users. Well, the Web 2 applications are already emerging, not necessarily from government sites, although in some cases they are government sites. These are maps and geospatial analysis that are richer and more dynamic and more collaborative in terms of the way they're brought together. They bring together multiple feeds and bring it together in a real-time data is being mashed up with traditional maps. Social networking data is being brought together and popped out with these APIs that anybody can access and use and benefit from. So my position here is that these data sets will bring a lot of change. They'll bring about these services will bring about a lot of change. The services being exposed will bring about as much change as what GIS itself has done for government. It would explode applications. And just building a minute on what Greg and Tim were talking about, it takes time. This little diagram suggests that really GIS started as a research project almost 40 years ago in government, went into kind of a professional mode, and then now there's millions of users that actually use it. But as this stuff gets serverized or servicized, I don't know the exact word, put into the domain where people can access it and bring it together, my sense is it'll be millions of users, a kind of societal geospatial information system of sorts. And that would leverage all of the big investments that the government has made. It would connect government to citizens. It would connect government to government. It would encourage lots of new kinds of collaboration. The result would be a kind of framework for Government 2.0 or society in general, supporting, as I said, many users, many applications. This would bring government's authoritative source and high-quality maps and models and analysis, not just the maps. I'm talking here about the deep reach to data and analytic tools into the hands of everyone. And people would build little cool apps. Some of them would be well thought out, some of them would be more casual, government to business, citizens connecting with government, integrating all levels of government, doing these neat things. Now, some of you might say, that's a neat vision, Jack, but what's the substance of it? Actually, all the technology exists to be able to do this now, and I'm going to just show you a couple of little examples. Jeremy's actually going to show it. I'll talk while he's showing it.
All right, thanks, Jack. Here's a nice, speaking of services, here's a base map of providing a new topo map for the U.S. It's combining multiple data sets from multiple agencies, USGS, and as I zoom down into the local level, start to integrate some more local content.
So this is a kind of a federated set of data, the topographic map that USGS has now in digital mode as a service, but federated with local and state information. So we have one continuous, I guess I'd call it a base map from authoritative source. It's a science-based base map that one could then orchestrate or overlay other things to.
Well, let's try to find something to overlay on that, Jack. So I'm going to search here in Google Maps for California Wild Map Server, and the first thing I find is a service published by the California Resources Agency. I can go and find out more information about this service. This service is open, it's searchable, it's discoverable. I can view it right here and get a very simple map of this service, but it doesn't really provide the context. And so I want to take this service and mash it up with that base map service that we just saw.
This is a big fire, by the way. What's it called? The
Station fire.
Station fire, burning right north of Los Angeles. So by putting the fire, which is a real-time map, by the way, right now coming from California, on top of this real-time topographic map, we see context for the fire. That's interesting.
I want to add some more services on top of that, Jack. So in this case, here's another service from that California Resources Agency, critical facilities. So I see hospitals, long-term care, and nursing homes. And as I zoom in, I'll start to get more local information. So in this case, now I'm getting, Now I'm getting land use information, parcel information. That's published from the county.
County of Los Angeles. So County of Los Angeles is serving their parcels. The critical information is coming out of the state. The fire is coming out of the state. And?
Exactly. But it's not just about just viewing the services. It's also about the analysis. We want to ask the services questions. So let's take that fire boundary and buffer that fire perimeter, 2 miles, let's say, and let's find out more information around here by combining those services. So what I should see in just a second here is I see a list of all the nursing homes and hospitals and long-term care facilities
within 2 miles.
Within 2 miles of that. And
so the point here is that we're not simply seeing maps, we're doing spatial analysis dynamically. In this particular case, we also overlaid census data coming from the Census Bureau and manipulated it so that it shows those populations that are vulnerable to risk, like in nursing homes or old population or young population or like that. So it's a kind of interesting mashup that I can interact with, and I can republish that mashup as another service, for example, for community workers.
Right.
Now, let me just say something here. In Katrina, it took weeks to bring all of the information together on local government data on parcels and all of the other layers like population. The result was a catastrophe. Had we had services from government source, we could have been there in minutes or hours rather than 2.5 weeks and $500,000 of expenditure. That's a dramatic change that would be one example of benefit.
Right.
government-to-government benefit.
One other thing to note here, Jack, is we're not just building an application that hides the data behind that application. This application is built on these open services that are out there. So let's look at how we might create a service. So there's an application that we put together for the Sunlight Foundation Apps for America. And what I just want to do is just show how easy it can be to create a service. So
This is data.gov. He just went and grabbed a piece of data on EPA's dots on maps, and he's putting it on top of that same base map. So get this, he grabbed a file, he sent it over to the server is converting it from records in the database and posting it on the map. Sorry, Jeremy.
You're doing good. And then that's loading right now. And that service is, you see all those dots there, that's 100,000 points that were coming from that 14 megabyte shapefile. Lots of information here, lots of information that can be displayed on top of this map. It's a service to use.
So is it difficult to create a service out of data sets? No. Is it difficult to create a map service out of data sets? No. He just did it in about 15 seconds. So tabular data, georeferenced, put on top of a base map, and then he can query that tabular data. The point here is that there's a barrier today between FTP data and how you actually use it. So sites that turn data into services are the lesson that's shown here.
So finally, what does this all mean, Jack? This means
That's a good question.
better government, open government, transparent government. So here's an application built by the Department of Transportation to show how they're spending their stimulus money. So if I zoom in on a particular area, let's say Washington, D.C., I'll switch to that county-level view of the service. I can touch the county or view it by congressional districts, see how much is being spent in that county, broken down by the various agencies, and then drill in past the aggregate to the actual project itself.
This is actually DOT's spend of recovery information. The recovery.gov is also building an incredible site that'll have all expenditures and all recipients. It's going to be available in this same format in about 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks maybe. They're dealing with issues of data and the quality of data, but the user interface to be able to navigate through with mapping is very clear. So what are the points I wanted to say? Maps are cool.
I'll second that.
Yeah, right. Right. What's behind maps are geographic data sets, and those can be serverized, turned into services. I hope I'm not inventing a new word. And those services can be used to create all kinds of interesting, open, new applications. This is not going to just happen in government. It's going to happen in private sector. It's going to happen with big businesses, small businesses. They'll turn their information into spatialized services. Tabular data will become geocoded, and that map interface will become a way to interact with. Maybe it's what Tim might call the killer app of the Government 2.0. That's about it?
I think
you have anything else?
Well, I do have one other thing.
Okay.
So those services, the one thing you missed, Jack, there is that they're open and they're discoverable. You saw I just did a simple Google search to find those services, and that's very important.
Well, you can also get to the service and write JSON applications or whatever.
Exactly.
There you go. Thanks very much.